Awesome. Question for tonight. Has anybody ever forgotten about you? Even if you were just a kid, and you're like, okay, you forgot about me. Case in point, my husband was picking me up from the airport. I just got back from a conference. I told him what time I was coming in. And I got there and I'm waiting. And then I text and he went, oh, I'm down the
Oh,
street praying at the river. I'll be right there. I'm just down the street. And then he got there and I went, you forgot about me, didn't you?
yes.
He said no, but I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
you forgot. It's okay. You can admit it. Anyone ever forgotten about you? And if so, how'd that feel?
Weird. How you forget about your best friend?
It
But it's
happened.
happened. It's happened, yes. Sitting there
I
waiting.
I I took it differently than you did. What
Okay.
I did was, okay, this will never happen again. I'll never trust you again. I'll never trust. Nope, sorry. I'm not waiting at the airport till 3 o'clock in the morning. No more, never again. Not nope. That was before Uber. Taxis left the Ontario airport at
Oops.
10:30, so you had to rely on somebody to come pick you up. Nope, never will ever again happen. Never.
Well, mine was only about 8 minutes late, so it wasn't a big deal, but I was like, okay, I appreciate you out there praying to God, but you forgot about your wife, didn't you?
Reggie forgets
I
my food order almost every time he goes to get my food order. So, yes, I'm forgotten about every time. And I think it just makes me irritated because I'm like, I remember yours down to the sauce, to the extra fry, to the this, to the that. And it's not that he's not trying, but I'm
Right,
just like, I'm not sure why this is the fourth time this week. So, but he remembers other important things.
right. Okay, all right.
I remember my family forgot my birthday. All of them forgot my birthday. And I had to remind them the day after that, hey, so just so you know, yesterday was my birthday.
Yeah,
Yeah, that hard.
that's hard. That doesn't feel very good, right?
Yep.
All right. Uh, have you ever felt like, God, have you forgotten me? Have you ever been through something where you just felt so kind of alone or just God, are you there? Really? Are you there for me? Because I kind of feel like you've forgotten me. Anybody ever feel that? Yes, no?
Yep.
Yes, yes, we
Yes.
have.
Okay, all right. We're, we're going to be looking at the Babylonians in exile tonight. Who knows? Well, I know some of you because you're my history buffs. Tell us a little bit about the Babylonians in exile.
Well, just basically, the Jews were taken into captivity into Babylon, and they were slaves and ruled over by the Babylonians. And prophecy said that they would be there 70 years. That would mean that some generations would die off and they would have children, they'd get married there, and, succeeding generations. And would they ever go back to their
Right,
home?
right,
So it was a pretty hopeless situation. And after they went back, it caused the Jewish leaders to build many, many more laws around the laws that already exist in the Torah, so
right,
that they would never closely infraction any of the laws of Torah again, to cause that to happen to them.
right. Good, good. 70 years is a long time. Tell me, how do you think they were feeling? How would you feel? 70 years in exile.
Like
Oh,
God,
I think, oh, sorry.
yeah, it looks like God forgot about him. That's a long time to be in exile. And
Okay,
and they, because they were so far off the mark with being with they still were clinging to the law and still not necessarily seeing what God really was trying to tell them. They still were off the mark in reference to the idols and all the kings and all the stuff that they had been leading them up out to all these other things that had nothing to do with God, really. But they were still doing the high places and all the shrines and all that other stuff. So
Right. Okay. Brenda, what were you going to share? Thank you,
Um,
Margie.
so some of them started feeling very antsy and homesick and started going back. Like we see, I think Ezra and Nehemiah started inquiring about, hey, what's the situation back home? And so they started going back to try and rebuild. While some stayed and were okay.
Okay. Which one do you think, what category do you think you'd fall into? Those that tried to turn around and go back? Those that will be like, that's what it is, and I'm just gonna hang up here and make it work. What category would you fall into?
I'm not one
As
to
an immigrant, oh, sorry.
Hold on, Brenda. Erica.
sorry. I was just gonna say I'm not one to surrender to a lot of things. I'm a fighter, and so I would fight. But I can tell you that becoming a mother, one of the first and greatest lessons was surrendering.
Mhm.
And that's just kind of what life is, right? We have to just surrender.
Right. Okay. Good. Brenda, I know we can't see you, so it's hard to know when you're jumping in.
I know, sorry, and I can't put my little hand
It's okay.
yet.
It's okay.
So as an immigrant, and also from the information we have from Jeremiah telling them, hey, this is what God has said, stay, I would stay because I'll be like, hey, this is the promise. So I would stay and do what has been told me because I don't want to go back yet.
Okay. All right. Tabney, what category would you fall into, do you think? Turn and go back? Hang in there? Fight, stick it out? What's your makeup?
Fight and stick it out.
Okay.
Yeah. Not that it wouldn't be hard, but
Mhm.
I'm like Erica. I don't think I'd give up.
Okay, good. Maureen.
I think because we're looking at 70 years in a new generation, really.
Yes.
I think it would depend on how you were raised and what you were raised in. If you were raised in and all the things that go with your environment and raised in your family, but I think if you were raised in where your parents taught you about God's promise, you'd probably go back. Or if you were raised in where your parents weren't really that religious and they didn't really follow the way of God, but they kind of melted into the environment and mixed with the idols, you probably wouldn't go back.
Mm-hmm. Okay, awesome. They are now, here we're going to be looking at Jeremiah. Who can tell me something about Jeremiah? Because these are now the people that he's having to deal with. What do we know about Jeremiah, the leader Jeremiah? Anyone want to tackle him?
So Jeremiah was he he was not so gung-ho about doing his work, but he had to be pushed to. And but then also he saw so much sadness to the point that they called him the weeping prophet. And he was also during that time when he had to deliver such terrible news to all these kings and people all the time. So it just seemed like, does life ever get better?
Yeah. Good. Good. Yes, he's known as the weeping prophet, and I want us to think about a friend or someone that we've been trying to, maybe not recent, just someone we've been trying to help, someone to lift their spirit, and it's just almost impossible to get them up out of that heaviness. Anybody ever had that where you're giving everything that you have and nothing seems to be working as far as just lifting their spirit? That's kind of where Jeremiah was. Here he has this group of people who have been in exile for 70 years. And like someone pointed out, some are died out, some are, have been born into it. Some of them are there because of the sin that they had committed. Some of them are there just because of their circumstances. I just happen to be the child of someone, you know? Is it any easier to be in exile or to suffer, let's use that term for us, is it any easier to suffer if it's at your hand, something that you deserve, or something that happens to just be put upon you? Is it any easier to go through?
It's like being in a car accident, whether when it's your fault and you get really hurt, or being in a car accident and it's somebody else's fault and you get severely hurt. Both ways, you're severely hurt and it hurts.
Yes, yes. G.
Now, well, that example changes it a little bit for me. But I was going to say sometimes it's easier, I think, for me if like it just happened to me rather than me doing it myself. I don't
Right.
know why, but that's just what it is for me. Like if it's just happened to me, I'm like, okay, like this is just what I got to deal with. But if it's something I've done, then I'm like, I think it takes a little bit more working through to
Mhm.
realize like something that I did.
Did-
I don't know. It's easier to accept, I think, like, well, this is just life. This is what God's given me if it's someone else. But if I do it, then I think it's just harder to like accept that it was like me who had
Right.
a hand in it.
Right. Look at what I've done. Okay, Cindy.
I'm completely the opposite. When it's done to you, especially if you're a child, you have no power over you, power and authority hurts you or abuses you. You really don't have any other, you don't have any other metric to compare that to. That's just life. But then you find out that other people are not living. And for me, I get angry. I'll get angry both ways. If I do something to myself, stupidity. But it's particularly heinous when it's at the should have known better,
Mm,
or should have protected you,
mhm.
Me.
proceeded to carry out their own evil intentions at your expense.
Right.
No, avenge yourself. So that's harder I think that's a harder scenario to accept. If whether that's something that happened to me or you're living in Gaza right now, Ed,
Mhm.
you know, you have no, you have to keep that from happening to you.
Right.
I think of it a little differently. If we need to move on, sorry, do you
No, go for
want
it.
me okay. I never want to hold anybody up, but I think of it a little bit differently. Obviously it's heinous if a crime is committed upon anyone and especially a child, but I it's a different kind of hurt, right? When it's done to you versus you doing it to yourself. And I think it comes from a guilty conscience. That to me is a deeper hurt when
Right.
I'm doing it. And
Right.
today, this kind of falls in line with what we're talking about. I've just felt really exhausted lately. I've had a really hard time just getting motivated and feeling physically well. And I can't figure out what's going on with me. And I had this moment where I said, God, why does it feel like my body is failing me? And
Mm,
I felt like I heard him say to me, like, these are the words that came to my mind. Is your body failing you, or are you failing your body?
ooh.
And it was get outside, go for a walk, get some sunshine, because I've been locking myself in this house all day, every day. I've not been taking care of me. And it's hard sometimes to take responsibility, but when you do, that's how you can change your own circumstances. So to just sum that all up, yeah, for me, I think it's harder when you do it to yourself.
Mhm. Wow, beautiful example. Thank you for sharing that. Awesome. We're going to look at the exiles, but most importantly, I want to look at how God deals with it. But first, let's just get a running start, as we always do. Hello, Linda. I'm sorry I didn't say hello as you came in. So we're going to go to Jeremiah 29. We're familiar with it, but we're actually going to read verses 1 through 14. So if I can get a reader, whoever feels they want to take that on, that'd be amazing.
Okay, just starting in 1.
Starting 1, and we're going to take it through 14.
Okay. A letter to the exiles. This is the text of the letter that the prophet Jeremiah sent from Jerusalem to the surviving elders among the exiles, to the priests and the prophets and all the other people. Nebuchadnezzar had carried into exile from Jerusalem to Babylon. This was after King Jehoiakim and the queen mother, the court officials, and the leaders of Judah and Jerusalem, the skilled workers and the artisans had gone into exile from Jerusalem. He entrusted the letter to Elisha, son of Seraphim, and to Jeremiah, son of Hilkiah, whom Zedekiah, king of Judah, sent to King Nebuchadnezzar in Babylon. It said, "This is what the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, says to all those I carried into exile from Jerusalem to Babylon. Build houses and settle down, plant gardens and eat what they produce, marry and have sons and daughters, find wives and your sons and give your daughters in marriage so that they too may have sons and daughters. Increase in numbers there, do not decrease. Also seek the peace and prosperity of the city to which I have carried you into exile. Pray to the Lord for it, because if it prospers, you too will prosper. Yes, this is what the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, says. Do not let the prophets and the diviners among you deceive you. Do not listen to the dreams you encourage them to have. They have prophesying lies to you in my name. I have not sent them, declares the Lord. This is what the Lord says. When 70 years are completed for Babylon, I will come to you and fulfill your good promise to bring you back to this place. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. Then you will call on me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. I will be found by you, declares the Lord, and I will bring you back from captivity. I will gather you from all the nations and places where I have banished you, declares the Lord, and will bring you back to the place from which I carried you into exile.
Okay. It's a lot in there. We're just going to break it down. I just want to hear, first of all, what jumps out at you guys. I know we all, everybody knows verse 11. Everybody talks about Jeremiah 29:11, but there's more to it than that. But if that hits you too, let's talk about it. What jumps out for you?
That he says that it's going to be prosperous and that to go ahead and do everything they need to do in order to be prosperous where they are right now. He sent you here for a reason. You're going to be here for a while. So make good of the time that you're there rather than not thriving and not living. Live and marry and have children and do all the things you would do if you weren't in exile.
Right. Good. Good. Brenda.
Oh gosh, I was going to say that what Margie also said, that he gives them a charge to almost like permission to really live life, but yet also not forgetting to be godly. So he's like, pray for prosperity. That's meaning like, don't forget your traditions. You're praying people, you're godly people. I want you to practice that.
Right.
But I also want you to make the best of your time there.
Yes.
Very good. Good. Anyone else? Thank you, Brenda. Linda.
Well, here God tells them specifically what they need to do so they can have the blessing of God. It's very specific. Do this, and then this will happen. I mean, I think too, in situations like that, that's what God tells us. Do this, this will happen. And it's a matter of trusting that God's going to do what he says he's going to do.
Right. Okay, awesome. Cindy.
After, everybody talks about Jeremiah 11, verse 11, those good plans to give you a hope and a future. And it's interesting that he says next, then you will call upon me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. It's like, it's a thought that's coming after that promise. And he says, you'll seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart, and I will be found by you.
Mm.
And I know we hear those over and over, and with kind of our Christian contextual, context,
Right.
it seems pretty obvious, right? Because that's kind of the New Testament talks about having a relationship with God. Jesus says, whoever worships me will worship me in spirit and in truth. And you're not going to be going to Jerusalem or to any other place, as he was talking to the woman at the well. And so these words that he's saying are to Jews who have no temple.
Right.
The way they connected with God was through the temple, the sacrifice. They're not making any sacrifices here. So how am I going to get my sins forgiven? How am I going to connect with God? That's all gone. It's burned to the ground. Everything's been taken away. The menorah is gone. The lamps, the whole thing, the table, the ark, it's all gone. So that was the only way that they could enter into having a relationship with God. And so it's almost like he's giving a foreshadowing of what it will be like with Jesus, because we don't need the temple. Jesus is our sacrifice. And I'm kind of going on like that, but I'm just thinking if I was a Jew listening to this, it would be really important for me to believe this, because I'm used to going to the temple and it ain't there anymore.
Right.
So,
Very
yeah.
good. We're going to talk about that some. Anybody else before I take us to another turn? Twist and turn. I fell in love with this one when I was doing this one this morning. Maureen.
He says, don't let the prophets and diviners among you deceive you. That's kind of like the wolves in the sheep clothing. Don't let those people among you that are problematic deceive you. Don't
Right.
listen to them. Don't listen to the dreams you encourage them to have. They are prophesying lies to you in my name. I have not sent them.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I want to talk about this. Here they are. They've been in this situation almost 70 years. We don't know exactly what the time frame is right now. So they're feeling some kind of way. Some of them are like, I've had it, I'm up to here. And others are like, okay, we can push on. We can make this happen, depending on their makeup. But everybody has some feelings. But I want to point out kind of what Cindy is saying. There's a transfer that's taking place. They are used to worshiping the old way, worshiping in the temple. They're used to give me something I can hold on to. Geez, God, you took me away from where I was accustomed to. You're taking everything away. And I feel like my life is turned upside down. You've just forgotten about us. So they've got some feelings going on. And he's coming back. He said, no, 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 no. I got you. Even when you feel uncertain, insecure, I still got you. So I'm telling you, marry, have kids, build homes. In other words, even in your uncomfortable state, I'm with you. Just because it's not the way you want it to look or the way you're used to it looking doesn't mean I'm not still with you. God had not forgotten them. It's just he is making things look different from what they want it to look like. Anybody ever been through that? Where you wanted something and you're going, God, we're supposed to be doing it that way. And he's like, no, we're doing it this way. And then there's this tug of war, oh, God, what's wrong with you? And he's like, nothing's wrong with me. What's wrong with you? So I want us to look at two different scriptures just in contrast. In the Old Testament, because that is what they were accustomed to. Look at what took place. Look in Exodus 28, verses 6 through 9.
Okay. I'm reading from the NIV. It says, make the ephod of gold and of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, and finely twisted linen, the work of a skilled craftsman. It is to have 2 shoulder pieces attached to 2 of its corners, so it can be fastened. Its skillfully woven waistband is to be like it, and of one piece with the ephod made with gold and blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, and finely twisted linen. That's it, right?
That's it. This is the way it was done in the temple. This is the old way in which the priest carried the people on their hearts into the Holy of Holies. So they are looking now, God, where do we go? Who's going to speak on our behalf? You know, we have nowhere to turn. And I want us to see where he's turning them. So right here we see when it was the priest that would go in on behalf of the people. Hold on, Cindy, I know you got some stuff. They carried them. It says that their names were engraved on the jewels and it attached to the priest's clothing. That's how the priest carried the people up to God. Cindy, did you want to add something different before I contrast?
No, that was what I was going to add, because there were jewels on it for the 12 tribes, and each of those 12 tribes were engraved on those jewels.
Right.
Said, to represent the people is what you were saying.
Yes, that was etched in stone. That's what worshiping God looked like. Now they're out here for 70 years, lost and confused, and he's taking them in a different direction. So if I can get someone to go over to Isaiah 49, verse 16. And we're going to hang on this one for quite a while tonight. Who's going to
I
read
can
that?
read it.
Thank you, G.
See, I have engraved you on the palms of my hands. Your walls are ever before me.
I have engraved you on the palms of my hands. How is that different from what they are accustomed to? Again, and now what he's offering up. And how do you think that fell on them?
It's now not, sorry not to raise my hand, but it's
That's
now
okay.
not just an ornament or an extra piece. It is now a part of him. It is a part of the being. So it's, we're not extras or side pieces. We are a part of a body.
Right, right. Maureen, and then Brenda.
When I read that, I thought about Jesus being nailed to the cross, and remember when he put your finger through the hole in my hand, engraved on his hands. And that's the image that I got when she
Yes,
read that. Yeah,
yes.
Christ.
Awesome. Brenda.
I also thought about, like, in the old time, the priest was wearing the embodiment of God, right?
Right.
And he was the connector to the people. But here, God is like, no, your names are engraved on me. So you are on me.
Yes.
I'm wearing you.
I'm wearing you. I'm wearing you. There is a change that's taking place. It's up to them, however, to accept the change. How often do we get stuck at that in between? We are used to God showing up a certain way, or responding a certain way, or speaking a certain way, and God changes his method. And then we have to decide to go with him or continue to fight against him. So that's where they are. They're like, God is like, I want you to prosper. Yes, it's not where you want it to be, but I'm coming back for you. But he says, I'm coming back for you when?
After the 70 years.
After the 70 years.
Right.
God did not go back on what he put out there. They were going through exile for 70 years. So with us, there's often, God has a timeline. We just don't know what it is.
That's for sure.
So we're like, This has been too long. God, I've been going through this for 5 years already. We don't know that there might be a 10-year timeline on it.
Mm.
They didn't know, but they had to be willing to trust this God that they claimed that they had come to know. Do we trust this God that we all claim to know?
Sometimes,
Sometimes.
not
Thank you.
always. We have a tendency to kind of drift away. Sometimes we want to have it go our way. And then we have to be reminded by God that no, who's in charge? You or me?
Yes. Yes. And then he reminds them with the infamous passage of scripture that we all love. What does he remind them when they're in their head struggle? What does he remind them of?
I have plans for you,
I have a
plans to
plan.
prosper you, not to harm you.
Yes. Why is that hard for us to believe at times?
Because things don't always make sense.
Mm.
Yes. And when things don't make sense, we have to attach some kind of reason to it. It doesn't make sense because, and then we fill in the blanks. And God is saying, trust me. If you're going to trust me in the good times, you have to also trust me in the bad times. And I think that was his point of saying, build homes, get married, have kids. Yes, I know it's a hard time, but I'm still in it.
Mhm.
Do we believe that God is still in it, even when it's rocky?
Yeah.
Sometimes, depending on how we're built, sometimes it's easier to see God in the hard times than it is to see God in the good times.
Yes.
And then sometimes for others, it's the flip. I see God in the good, but I can't see God in the bad. Which side of that coin do you fall on? Is it easier to see God in good times or bad times for you?
That's a
I
good.
Mm.
I developed a relationship with God during a rough time. And prior to finding God, it was always my understanding that, I viewed Christians, not just, I've always been a Christian, but I wasn't so sure if I believed, but I viewed what my family would call holy rollers as people, just big believers, as people who leaned on faith for a crutch, like as a crutch
It's a
when they were
crutch.
scared and they wanted to believe in something. And I think God tried to show me that that's not real through my own personal experience.
Right.
Because he almost like isolated me at a time when I was going through something really tough.
Mm-hmm.
He, like all my friends, family members, just like poof out of my life. And I felt so alone. And that was when I heard him for the first time. And it was like he was drawing me closer to him. Like, I've got you alone now. You will
Right.
finally listen. Um, so yeah,
Very good. Okay.
I trailed a little bit. What was the initial question? I'm sorry.
That's
Like,
okay. Is it easier for you to trust God in good times or bad times? It was a good
yes.
trail, so
Okay.
that's okay. We
Mhm.
like that
Bad
rabbit
times
hole.
for me, just to wrap that up.
Okay. Tabney, did I see you unmute?
Yeah, I was, I kind of feel like it's hindsight for me that after the bad is when I see when he stood beside me or carried me, like the infamous footprints
Mm-hmm.
um, poem details.
Right.
But now having more spiritual maturity, I know that when things are going bad, they're lessons, or that's when I tap into the discernment that I've been praying for to say, okay, well, this is not going well. What are you trying? You must want to get my attention. What's going
Right.
on? Let me pause. So I would say now it would be flipped, but majority of my life and my spiritual experience has been, oh, God bless me with this job and bless me with this man and bless me with this raise and bless me with this trip, all
Mm-hmm.
the good. But in spiritual maturity, the bad is really when he is the busiest and needs our attention, and when we're uncomfortable is when he's doing his greatest work.
Awesome.
Amen.
100%. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Anyone else? Cindy, is that a hand or you just scratching your little cheek there? Couldn't tell.
Oh, I think I would agree with everyone else. It's easier, you're drawing closer to God. I am when things are unpredictable or you have to work through something and it's very difficult. So
Right.
I would say in those challenging times, much more
Right.
so. And when things are good, it's like, oh, it's all good. And they sort of disconnect a little bit, you know.
Right. Okay. I went down this rabbit hole, speaking of rabbit holes, but it was a really good one. It just made me feel great. So I'm going to share it with you guys. And it was just looking at when the scripture talks about how God, he has us engraved on the palm of his hand. I was just like, okay, I've heard that all my life, but let me just dig into it. I have engraved you on the palms of my hands. That means you've been sketched. You've been etched deep into my flesh. You know, basically as a tattoo. And it's us, it's our face. So what I did, I just went through and I looked at passages of scripture in which God lifted his hand. Because every time he lifts his hand, he sees us.
Mhm.
And I never thought about it that way. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, this is powerful. I just did this poverty simulator this at work that I created with my team. And we just did it yesterday. And the title of it is Sawubona, which is I see you in Swahili. That's how they greet one another. So they say, I see you, and the other person says, I see you. That's the response back to one another. And the whole point of the simulator is for us to see people beyond their circumstances, particularly the students, the kids that we deal with. You know, they come at us with some incredible poverty and incredible, just dire situations. And it's very easy to see all of that and not see the child within.
Mhm.
You know, so we had the simulator, it went great, and the teachers were just blown away. You know, we teach these kids all day, every day, but we needed to hear this. We needed to see them again. And I feel like as I did this morning, this was God saying, BJ, I see you. I see you. I need you now to see me. It's mutual. When we looked at that scripture in Jeremiah 29:11,
Mhm.
what stood out for me this time, excuse me, is when he says in verse 14, I will be found by you. In other words, God is not the one, we're not lost to him, he's
Lost.
lost to us. His eyes have been on these guys in exile every step of the way. He's going, I never lost sight of you.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't forget about you. I saw every little trick that came around the corner that scared you, every little monster that jumped out and made you shiver. It wasn't a surprise for God because his eye has always seen us, it's always been on us. We stopped seeing him. And I loved it when he says, I will be found by you. That's when the connection happens. But I want us to take a look. It's just going to do a quick walk. I just wrote down, he has now a permanent tattoo of me
Mm-hmm.
in the palm of his hand. So every time he lifts his hand, he
You see,
sees me.
yeah.
The very center of God's power is in his hands. So every time he lifts his hands, he sees me. Every time that he waves his hand to deliver somebody out of sickness, out of demon possession, every time he lifts his hand, he see me. He saw BJ's face. Every time he extended his hand to heal someone.
You
So
saw.
the woman with an issue of blood, and he reached his hand out. In order to reach his hand out, he saw my face. Think about how often do you utilize your hands during the course of a day
Oh, all day long. All day long. From
without
beginning to end.
even thinking about it?
Nope, don't even think about it. That's correct.
He could have put us, he could have engraved us anywhere he wanted to, on his elbow, on his leg. No, he says, I'm going to put you where I'm going to see it every minute of every day. So when we think he's forgotten us, we've got to think again and think, how often do I use my hand?
Mm.
Every time he uses his hand, he sees Erica. Every time he uses his hand, he sees Cindy. You know what I mean? It's like every time.
Wow.
That's powerful.
And
And
you know what else that makes me think is that when he's using his hands, if we're on his hands, he's using us
he's using us.
Mm.
to
We
do
are an
good.
extension. Yes, thank you, Eric. We are he shares his power with us.
Yes.
As he's healing people, he's taking us along with it, saying, you now, my child, have the same power. As he's loving people, he's saying, you have that same power. As he's giving to people, he's saying, you have that same power. And then I love it, Maureen went there already. When Jesus was on the cross and they nailed his hands
Mhm.
to the tree, when he looked at those hands, who did
So
he see?
us.
We hung on the cross with him.
Mm-hmm.
We healed the sick with him. We parted the Red Sea with him. I mean, that's powerful.
Yes.
And then you think about Jesus as we're approaching Easter. You think about the angel at the tomb, and they
Mm.
roll back the stone and had Jesus walk out. He lifted his hand, extended his hand, come on out of there. We were part of that.
Mhm.
The fiery furnace.
Astounding. It's so astounding. The creator of the universe makes time for us.
Yes.
Every last one of us on this call are busy. It can tell you 27 things that keep us busy. We're not as busy as the creator of the universe, and he makes time for us.
Yes.
That's beautiful.
That's the drop the mic of the night. Honestly, if you think about
Yes.
it, I always say, God, who could do any and everything solo, chooses to partner with us.
Mm.
Why? It is beyond me. He chooses to partner with us. Think about if we could take credit, and this is just our build, all of us, and even the best of us. We want our knocks. We want people to, give me credit for my stuff. But God wasn't saying, no, I did it all. He's saying, we did it all.
Yeah.
We did it. He includes us. He gets the glory, but we receive the blessing.
Mm-hmm.
So we're part of it. Just because he says, no, I've engraved you on the palm of my hands. I don't need to just put on jewelry now. I don't need someone to etch your name on something, because what if they lose the jewelry? Who
Yeah.
knows?
But if
What
it's
if something happens? What if you are pushed into exile?
Mhm.
Do you now lose that closeness to God? He is saying, now you come with me.
Mm-hmm.
Wherever you go, I go.
No.
Where have we heard that? Ruth and Naomi.
Mhm.
My God will be your God. So we just see God bringing us into his being.
Mhm.
He's saying, I'm not just the God that's standing back watching you now.
No.
I'm the God of you. Do you feel that? Are you willing to make that leap? It's a big leap
Mhm.
to go from someone taking my name into the temple. So I can go, yay, they took my name, check, done.
Mhm.
Or
Name is written on.
someone dwelling within me. I am the temple.
Mm-hmm.
I live in this temple. This temple never goes anywhere that I don't go. It changes how we do things. It changes how we do things. If we really thought in terms of we are the temple, it would make us think twice about the things that we do with ourselves.
And to ourselves. To
Now,
ourselves.
to ourselves, with other people, how we abuse ourselves, how we put ourselves down, how we, you know what I mean? We do so much to tear down this temple.
Mm-hmm.
And what if we saw this temple as God's temple? Would it change things? I loved what Eric had said before. She's been not feeling well. But God said, wait a minute. Are you not well? Because it's all about, okay, what are you doing to help to move this temple along? Are you going to just, I don't feel great and I'm just going to close myself up inside? Or am I going to push and get outside and see if that's what the temple is asking for?
Mhm.
Sometimes our temple is asking for things. What do you, how do you know when your body, when your spirit is craving time with God, prayer, fellowship? How do you know, or do you know, when your spirit is just craving something? Maureen.
Okay, so I noticed this just recently. I get cranky. I get cranky. And I just learned this recently. I get cranky. Like I am just like a little child who's having a tantrum. Right? Like, wait a minute, wait. I know what I'm missing. To go pray. And he said,
Yes,
oh God.
you can trace it and go, oh, that's what I'm missing. All right, Linda, then Gianna.
I feel disconnected from myself because it's when I'm not connecting with God, and I'm in that state. I'm not connecting with God. I'm not connecting with anybody else. It makes me, I feel sad, and uh, I guess I just feel sad, and I try to pull myself out of it, but nothing seems to work unless I go, oh, okay, there you
Right?
go.
Chi, and then Brenda.
I think I start to feel a lot less peace and I feel very unsettled, which
Yes.
leads to my anxiety. And then I think I also become less hopeful. And so I noticed that this last week and it like hit rock bottom. And I'm like, I was like, okay, I'm gonna pray, bow down, head to the floor, like I felt in that moment. And so I think it's when I start feeling like, because I feel like, I'm strong, I can handle a lot of things going on in life. But
Right.
when I start to feel unsettled, my heartbeat is constantly going. I can feel all day like, oh, there's something I'm missing. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm really not going to God. And I haven't lately because I'm just so go, go, go.
Right.
But like you guys have mentioned on here before, like just making time for that. It's like, how do you have peace when you don't go to the Prince of Peace?
Yes.
I just can't, it doesn't happen. So I think those are like the two red flags for me is not feeling like I have peace
Right.
and not feeling hopeful about the situations.
So true. So true. Thank you. Brendan, then Margie.
I start really deeply craving going out in nature. Like my whole body just goes, we're not going to heal until you go to the beach or you go walk in the woods. And there's this concept of like, I think it was introduced through Bema of creating a space and God will fill it. So I crave, like, I need to just go create that space because I know He's going to meet me there. Yeah.
Right. Good. Thank you. Margie.
All my anxiety comes swooping in on me, and I feel like I'm being weighed down, and I'm like, what's really going on? Because I can be so happy one minute, and boom, within a second or two, boy, I'm in a whole different space, and I know something's out of whack. And that's when I say, okay, it's time to just stop and let's talk to God. Let's have a conversation one
Yeah.
on one. Something's not right here, and I need you to get me back in the right space, in the right headspace, because I can spend hours being anxious about everything.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. I make myself crazy because I'm so anxious. I don't sleep. I can't eat. I don't want to do anything because I'm so anxious. But then when I fight, stop. Let's just pray. Let's just talk to God. Let's just have a
Right.
conversation. Let's just bring all the stuff that you're anxious about. Let's bring it to Him and just put it at the foot of His throne and walk away. It's done.
Yes.
He
Awesome.
handles it. He handles it.
Amen.
Very true. Erica, thank you, Margie.
I can't figure out how to do the hands. I
It's
don't know
okay.
how you
I saw the
guys are doing
hand.
that. Just all of the above, spot on. Nature, I start craving nature. My anxiety is through the roof. That's one of the first things I noticed when I developed a strong relationship with God is I was so at ease. I was at peace. I was not worrying about the things I once worried about. And I know that's because he was strong within me. And yeah, I'm losing my train of thought again, but yeah, my anxiety is terrible. I'm not at peace, but oh, I know what I was gonna say. I, Tabney sent me the topic for tonight. She said, this one's so perfect for you because I had messaged her recently and I said, I feel distant from God because I've not been reading my Bible. I've just been asking him for things lately and not putting in any time with him. And I really started to feel the impact of that.
Yeah.
I've been so busy with work, I felt like I didn't have time. I'm like, I just don't have time. I don't have time to sit down and read my Bible. And then I realized, well, I don't have time for him, but I'm expecting him to make time for me. And I'm sitting here
Yes.
asking him, help
Yes.
me, help me, help me. So finally today, or last night, I read my Bible and immediately I felt a difference. I felt more at ease. My anxiety was floating away.
That's beautiful. Yeah, it's everything that we're saying. We know, excuse me, we know when we're out of sync. It's like our body tells us, oh, something's off. I know. And we kind of know what we need. We just don't go there first. I think about it in terms of dehydration.
Mm.
When you're dehydrated, and thank
Speaking
you,
of which,
everybody's drinking water. When you're dehydrated, something as simple as water, and you immediately feel different.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Mhm.
But yet, we don't drink enough water.
True.
We'll turn to other things. We'll keep trying. Yeah, I know I need to get some water. Okay, I'll get some. It's like I don't know why we just push it off and push it off until we're so depleted. Then we're like, oh, I really need water. And we spiritually need to see that that's what we're doing with God.
It's true.
Let's not wait until we're so depleted that we're now scrambling. Oh my God. I love the example because what Erica is saying is really what we're seeing. This letter to the exiles was just to remind them, you need water. I'm
Mhm.
your water. Because they're out there, they're going, oh, you forgot about us. We don't know what we're going to do. And oh, well, so they're feeling all of this stuff. And they're all valid feelings. Just like everything that we've been dealing with, everybody's super busy. Life is chaotic. So they're all valid reasons. But meanwhile, God is going, hello, you need water. I'm
Mhm.
your water.
I love that.
Yeah.
All you have to do is drink. If you drink the water, we can take off and get this thing back on track. But I need you to drink the water. And that's why that stood out again when we always look at, I know the plan, he knows the plan he has for me, da da da. It feels so great. But then he says, then I would be found by you. In other words, you would pick up the glass and you would drink the water.
Mhm.
We've got to stop expecting God to do what he's expecting us to do for ourselves.
We've got to at least do that. Take responsibility, people. I mean, I think that's the thing is like, God says we need to do this if we want to have that relationship, but we get so caught up on our heads, we just kind of like disconnect.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going back full circle. We talk about, and Cindy, I see you. He's saying, I got you here. I see you and I think about you every minute of every day.
Yeah.
But then that takes us to the New Testament. It says, I stand here at the door and I knock. There's that hand. I knock. But then what do we have to do?
Open the door.
Yes. Open the door. Open the door.
That same hand that has us etched, carved, tattooed is
Yeah.
saying, I'm knocking. I'm knocking. And we can go, well, God, I'm too tired. I can't get up right now. We can give all the reasons not to open the door or not to drink the water. And he's saying, I am what you need. Cindy, I'm sorry, did you lose your train of thought?
No, not at all, because this is all something that I was thinking about as everyone was responding. I just feel depleted. In fact, I've been feeling that today. I was challenged with something. I didn't feel like I anteed up and did really well on it. and compared myself with a good friend who's got some things on stronger than I do. And so I just have been working really, really hard. And then I have this go into this little spiral of, oh, I haven't spent X amount of time.
Mm.
So I'm going to have to swim upstream or climb the ladder to get into where I was, almost like, oh man, it's been a week. Now what am I going to do? Okay, I'm just going to sit here. And then I'm so tired that I fall asleep. So, I'm just such a cheap date. Okay. But I'm thinking that from all the things that I know, these are my feelings of feeling inadequate to connect with God. Like, okay, I'm out of practice. I haven't practiced my scales, so I'm going to really stink. But it's more of the kind of thing where you just take what you can, kind of a two fish and a couple of loaves kind of thing, and then I need to talk to myself
Mhm.
because I have a lot of pressure on myself, thinking it's not going to be good enough.
Mhm.
He's not going to connect with me in the way it was before because I had all this time and now I don't have all this time. But I think it's the intention and taking whatever I can. And I really do need him. I feel depleted and then I feel unmoored, like sloshing like this, sloshing around. If somebody was scribbling with no kind of, you just feel like you're just grabbing at stuff, you know what I mean? Instead of having a focused, he guides the humble in what is right and teaches
Right.
them his way. So I
Right.
can tell when I lose that I need to go back and listen to the spirit.
But I
Yeah.
love the fact that he always tells us, come as you are, no matter where you are or what you're doing. Because again, we all came as we were when we found Christ in the first place. We just came with whatever we had. He didn't say you had to be in a special place or in a special kind of way or you wear a special kind of, none of that. He just said, come as you are.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I think we fail to realize sometimes we don't have to do anything special. Just show up,
Yep.
show up. And he says, just come. You just
Yeah.
come. You come, I'll do whatever needs to be done, but you got to come to me.
Yeah. One of Satan's great
Right.
ploys. One of Satan's great ploys is he tries to convince us that we have to reach a certain point.
Yeah.
And I believe even the passage of scripture we read tonight when he says, don't listen to the prophets because they're not telling you what I told you, what I said, and that's why we have to be able to connect with our own God. God, what are you speaking to me? Because the prophets could be telling you, go back to what we did before. But that he's saying, no, 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 I'm leading you a new way now. Are you listening to me? Are you in tune with me? God is not asking us to be what we used to be. He wants us to connect with him where we are right now. And that is just, if someone's been in a horrible car accident, God is not waiting for them to get well again, and then we'll go from there. He's like, no, 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 I'm going to take you right where you are. And if it's a baby step, that's what we're going to take. I'm good with that. Just start drinking the water. You don't have to do a 60-day water fast. Just drink water today. Because today is what it's going to take. Go ahead, Linda.
All right. Even what you're saying, what everybody's saying too, is that, I mean, God doesn't, when he says he will, it says to seek him with all our hearts. It doesn't mean that you have to do this first and that first, this way, that way, with this person. It doesn't say you have to do it anyway. God made us all different, and we need to, even like you said, BJ, we all go to God in different ways, and we can't put ourselves in a box. And when we do that, we're not going to meet those expectations. We just never will. So it's just go, wretched, pitiful, poor, blind, and naked. That's who we are. Just show up.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, in the acting world, we always talk about bad acting is someone who's trying to recreate something. If I saw Meryl Streep and she did this and I try to do it the way that she did it, that's bad acting because I'm trying to be her.
Mm,
Good acting is, you know what? I admired what she did. Now let me just do my thing. Let me make it mine. And we have to get to a place in which spiritually we are saying, let me make this relationship with God mine.
yep.
And I know we've all been taught or shown what godly looks like, but look at us on the screen. We all look very different. We all come from different things. We all respond to different things. So our walk with God is not supposed to look the same. There should
Right.
be reflections of God in it.
Mhm.
So there definitely should be similarities, but I don't come from what Cindy comes from. So our walks are not going to look the same.
Mhm.
God doesn't have me traveling all over the world like he has G doing. So my walk with her there's not going to look the same. But that's Satan's way of getting us so twisted
Mhm.
that we don't realize I'm etched. God's got me.
And
He's happy with me.
Mhm.
Not mad at me if I don't have a drink of water, but he will try to convince me you need to drink. You're dehydrated. You're not thinking clear. You need to drink from me.
Mhm.
Remember, he is the living water. And if we drink deeply, it will fill us up.
Mhm.
Amen?
amen.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Give me some feedback. That's all we got for tonight.
this
I
was
love it.
awesome. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
This was awesome because I know I've read this before, but it just didn't hit my brain until tonight. I have engraved you on the palms of my hands. Your walls are ever before me.
Ever before me.
That's mind-boggling. That
Yeah.
I'm engraved on his hand, not just his heart. I'm engraved on his hands because he
Yeah.
says, "I'll never leave you. I'll never forsake you. I'm always there. I will love you no matter where, how far away you go. He loves you no matter what."
Yeah.
But then to know that every time he puts his hands up, every time you're there. My face is etched in his hands. I'm there.
That was an aha for me. That was
Yeah,
an aha.
really.
All
That
right.
was
Thank you. Erica, what were you going to share? Thanks, Margie.
What's that line say? It says your whats are ever before me.
Your
Your
wall.
walls.
Your walls
Mhm.
are ever before. What do we think that means? Your walls, your struggles.
Yes. The things that stand in your way, the things that block you, they're ever before
for
me.
me.
In other words, I got them. You're there fretting, you're worried, you're, oh my goodness. God is like, they're before me. It's not like I don't see them. I know they're there. And when the time is right, I will either knock them down or I'm going to take you around them. They're ever before me. In
Mm.
other words, he always sees us. His eyes are never off of us in our circumstances.
Mm.
I also love what you pointed out about the hands that you specifically, I noticed, said you're on me, meaning I'm in control. You're on me. You're on
Right.
my hands. I'm
Yes.
in control here, and you're going to surrender to my hands. Your walls are ever before me. I know what they are, and you're going to surrender.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
And if you think about fingerprints are all unique,
Mm-hmm.
we're on, not to say that we know that God has fingerprints, but for the
I
sake
know.
of just
Awesome.
digging into this.
G.
Well, really great, obviously. Always love your stuff. But what you pointed out about Jeremiah 29:14 was the one thing that really stuck out to me too, besides the etching on the hands. But that was what I was gonna point out when you asked us. And I just felt like, yeah, when I really came to God and changed my life and really got to know him, it was because I found him. And, I had recognized everything that I missed before. And, I think about it just being the prayer I have for other people. Like, I can't wait for them to find him.
Yeah.
Not that he reaches out to them, because I know he is. So I think, again, just as I'm praying for those that I feel like are far from him or very close to him, even just that
Mhm.
they do have the power to find him. And, that'll continue to be in my prayers. And then moving on to the etching of the hands, when you talk about palms, and you were talking about that's where the power comes out of. I was just thinking of not only from his hands, but from ours. And how much do we use our hands, you mentioned, but I thought about how much do we connect relationally with our hands, holding hands, high-fiving, hugging, massaging, like the power of the palm of our hands has a lot to do with relationship, which reminds me of God. So that was just another lasting thought.
Beautiful. Thank you. I did not think of that. Awesome. Anyone else before we close it out? Awesome. Well, ladies, as
Thanks,
always,
BJ.